Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicholas Lamar Suter, and this is Overtime. We are covering a lot today, and if you'd like to stay up to date, I suggest you join our Discord and stay on both the news and the breaking news channels. They're used somewhat differently, but they both contain very important information. A lot's been happening today, and rather than go to breaking every time something happens, something we would normally want to inform you of right away, what we have been doing is collecting it for a rundown later in the day and just sort of, cover everything in a single rundown. Having said that, there were several things that we knew would trigger breaking news, and one of them has occurred, which is the United States has reached a deal, a tentative deal with Canada and Mexico regarding tariffs. Now, we're going to cover a little bit about what we know about the deal, what there is to think about in regards to these deals, and then we've actually got several other stories that have been waiting in the wings anyway, and we will cover those as well. So first and foremost, the deal with Mexico, since it happened first, ostensibly the deal is as follows, which is that Mexico will send 10,000 of their National Guard to the border to protect against their own citizens trying to illegally enter the United States. In return, the United States will guard against the illegal smuggling of heavy weapons from the United States into Mexico. Heavy weapons being the number one, heavy weapons from the United States being the biggest source of arms for the cartels. So I will give at least credit where credit is due. It appears as if through the bully pulpit, he has managed to get a deal that will hopefully negatively impact the cartels in one way or another. How this is actually going to be implemented and if it will have any effects is yet to be determined. I will also add, shockingly, 10,000 for a border that size is, I was going to say not a lot. I honestly don't know, as Andring isn't here. He could tell me far better than I know. I don't know how effective it would be. I will say this, again, to give credit where credit is due, he promised to build a wall along the border and make Mexico pay for it, and he does appear to have done that. We'll see. That's just a shocking revelation, but by one meaning of it, he actually does appear to have done that. The last of any of his promises I expected him to fulfill. It is a 30-day pause in the tariffs. Ostensibly, this is in order to ensure that Mexico is keeping up their side of the deal. I don't know what retaliation Mexico has if the U.S. does not keep up their side, and I assume will do the minimum required to keep it up for show. I could be wrong. Maybe it's the cynic in me. As far as Canada is concerned, the deal has worked out roughly the same. The deal there is a little more interesting. Roughly, Canada will appoint a new fentanyl czar. That is actually all we got out of the deal. Canada will appoint a new fentanyl czar. It looks like we got a lot more. Donald Trump is touting that essentially there will be $1.3 billion put into the border, securing the border between the U.S. and Canada. That is kind of true, almost true, and has nothing to do with Donald Trump. We'll get into that in a minute. Having said that, those appear to be the deals as we have them, and as of now, the tariffs in Mexico and or against Mexico and Canada are on pause for 30 days each. What does this mean, and what can we tell about them? Good question. I am not an expert on Donald Trump. I am not an expert on how these things play out. But from my vantage point, what I am looking at is he has done what he frequently does, which is bully the living daylights out of anyone he agrees with, but does offer a way out. And both Canada and Mexico have opted for it. The ways out are usually not particularly painful, but get him whatever he needs. In this case is the projection of a significant victory of some kind, and both Canada and Mexico, from my perspective and what I am seeing, have capitulated. On Mexico's side, he has given the Mexican president something she can take back to her people, that the U.S. will crack down on the smuggling of our weapons to Mexico that is being used by the cartels to hurt her people. So she's got a legitimate gripe there and a legitimate win there for her people if we, in fact, do it. In return, 10,000 of their troops are going to the border, ostensibly to keep illegals from crossing the border. Trump has rather, I don't want to say intelligently, but diligently decided not to promise a permanent halting of the tariffs, but to at least wait 30 days to see if she in fact follows through and what that follow-through actually, what effect it has. So she is a little bit under the gun to provide some results that can be seen and that he can take back. Again, how much, I don't know. On the northern border, Trudeau has appeared to provide staggering results to Donald Trump. In fact, he has not. He has provided basically the appointment of one, what I would call a cabinet-level position, the czar of fentanyl, which is going to be a waste of a job. Fentanyl is, we discussed this already, not that big a problem, and not in that way we produce it here. But and we've got other drugs. But anyways, let's get into the nuance a little bit more on the deal with Canada. Trump, I'm going to say tweeted. I'm sorry, I'm not going to dignify that organization with Trump tweeted, quote, Canada has agreed to ensure that we have a secure northern border and finally the end of the deadly scourge of drugs like fentanyl that have been pouring into our country, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans, will destroy, while destroying their families and communities all across our country. Copy that, Titan. Thank you. Appreciate it. Canada will implement their $1.3 billion border plan, and per Prime Minister Trudeau will be, quote, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, personnel, and enhanced coordination with our American partners, and increase the resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. In addition, Canada is making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar. We will list cartels as terrorists, ensuring the 24/7 eyes on the border. Launch a Canadian-U.S. joint strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. I've also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl, and we will be backing it with $20 million. As president, it is my responsibility to ensure the safety of all Americans. I am doing just that. I am very pleased with this initial outcome, and the tariffs announced on Saturday will be paused for a 30-day period to see whether or not a final economic deal with Canada can be structured. Caps, fairness for all. Sounds like a great deal. Sounds like he did a spectacular job. He did omit a couple of key things. This is, by the way, it was the Prime Minister Trudeau will be, quote, reinforcing the border. So these are the promises of Trudeau. They are the promises of Trudeau, but they were offered in a slightly different way. Trudeau announced, quote, I have just had a good call with Trump. He made a commitment to, quote, appoint a fentanyl czar, and that Canada is implementing our $1.3 billion border plan, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, personnel enhanced. This is a plan they already had in place. They did not add this plan for Donald Trump. They did not make this plan for Donald Trump, and none of the new choppers, technology, or anything that Trump has outlined is being added because of Trump. What Trudeau did was reaffirm that they're going to continue doing what they were already planning on doing to keep the border secure. That's it. And the way Trump framed it is that they have added the new czar, which was based on his request, so kudos Trump. There is now a fentanyl czar being paid ungodly amounts of money to do who knows what in Canada, and gotten Canada to commit to do what Canada has already committed to do. Well done. Now, you'd have to look that up and do some research and see what the Canadian version of events is, not just the United States version, and what Canada is talking about and what Trudeau is talking about to catch that subtle difference. I have no doubt that any MAGA listening is going to sit there and say, well, he still got them to, what was it actually? He ostensibly he may have gotten them to do the new directive, but he signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl. He couldn't have done that just today, and well, unless the directive, I guess, is the same thing to our executive order. I don't know. But at any rate, it looks like 90% of what Trump is talking about that we got out of the Canadians for all of this debacle, they were already doing. They've just decided to give him the credit for it, which is fine. Canadians must be laughing their asses off, but for being royally pissed at the U.S. for doing all of this in the first place. So on the northern border, I don't want to say pyrrhic victory because it damaged the U.S. in some ways. It wasn't catastrophic. The tariffs never went into effect. It has damaged our soft power, our respect amongst our neighbors, and we have threatened the living daylights out of our own allies to hand Trump credit for something Canada was already doing, and so he gets the credit and gets to tell everyone what a great president he is and how much he's accomplished. And from what I can tell, he accomplished nothing but seriously damaging our relationships with our closest neighbors. But it's going to do what he wants, which is to boost his popularity with his base, who already now will do almost anything for him because, hey, he's going to pardon you if you literally try to overthrow the government of the United States, you will get a pardon. I know this because I watched it happen. What else is going on? Well, with the tariffs situation, at least in Canada and Mexico, resolved, China has promised to sue the United States over the tariffs, which they say are illegal. Those tariffs, China being a quote, enemy state, we decided to kindly only tariff them 10%. Go figure. Don't be an ally of the U.S. You're going to get an extra 15% on top of all of your tariffs. So China, we'll see the results of that. My suspicion is this is another one where if Trump, the last time Trump went head-to-head with China, he lost. He lost bigly. The only reason most people didn't know it is because he used the power of the purse to be able to pay off the damage done to soybean farmers who would have been completely wiped out otherwise. And while I appreciate the fact that he actually rescued people, something the U.S. is no longer in the business of, thanks to the canceling of USAID, which we'll get to in a minute. While he was kind enough to do that, he wouldn't have had to do that if he hadn't have gotten into a war with a totalitarian government capable of stopping and redirecting their economy on a dime and gotten into a trade war with them. Really? He lost. Every economist I know that's looking at this says he lost. Every MAGA looking at this says he won. But can't point to what he got. All right, fine. What else? Last night, There were protests in Los Angeles. We referenced these protests briefly. We were on the shills. They have a new program, Chat in the Pub, I think. Chat in the Pub. I think that's correct. Which we were on their inaugural episode of, and we sincerely appreciate. During that, we got notice of not riots, sorry, protests in Los Angeles over the the ICE deportations. This is those protests. I believe this was about 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern.
Fucking hell.
I can only say this before we get to the next pictures. I can imagine the driver, driver sitting there, going through. He's got his spouse next to him. He's like, "What are we honking for?" "Just keep honking. I don't know what they're protesting, but just keep honking." And like, "Yeah, we support you, whatever this is." Anyways, sorry, I don't know why. That probably was not funny, but that thought entered my head as everyone's honking in support of who's going to say I don't support you in the middle of that. They turned violent later on that evening, and tear gas was deployed against the protesters.
That's all I'm saying. You don't have to throw shit. We're already here. We're already here. You're already making your statement. That's what we want. Don't be throwing shit. Don't be throwing.
Go ahead. As we get to Union Station, we're going to need a lot more resources if you want to keep pushing north.
We don't know who initiated it. We do know that last time Trump was in office and he was in front of, what's the name of the church? It's right outside the White House, I believe, or out the Capitol. It's been a while, but there was a clash between protesters and police, and Trump quite firmly claimed that the protesters attacked the police and that there was no order given to clear the area. It was so that he could actually have a photo shoot, and thanks to video footage, we know that he was utterly full of shit. The police went and illegally dispersed the crowd. I don't know what happened in this particular instance, but we don't, as of yet, have any reports on injuries or we don't know any further what's going on there, or if there are more protests planned for tonight. There were protests in front of the USAID. I'm going to talk about USAID. We spoke about it yesterday. USAID is one of the organizations. Now it's a federal department, which actually means that it can only be closed by Congress. Having said that, we believe that Musk ordered the head of the Treasury to cut all funding to USAID. The head of the Treasury refused to do so, at least this is our understanding, at which point he was escorted out of the building. By this point, Musk and his college buddies and everyone else, none of whom are federal officers, none of whom have sworn an oath to the Constitution, none of whom have anything more than a driver's license, to the best of my knowledge, began cutting funding. We don't know yet what funding has been altered since our only way to know is to hear from the Treasury Department, and the Treasury Department has been seized by Elon Musk until either he tells us or specific departments don't get their weekly paychecks. We don't know what he's cut. But the USAID website went dark. In the U.S. government website, USAID is now listed as part of the State Department. Marco Rubio has said that he has taken interim control of USAID. This is until a way can be found to completely unwind USAID. This is the protest of USAID workers who are not allowed into the building, and a number of other protesters.
Until a waiver was thrown together after the fact. Let me say that again. Prisoner guards overseeing thousands of ISIS combatants walk off the job. This is real life. This is history. Further, I'm urging my fellow Democrats to use every legislative tool we have at our disposal to slow down and stop this crime from
The reason it's a crime is because this agency was created by Congress. It can only be uncreated by Congress. Previous presidents, going back, I believe, to the 1880, tried to use the Treasury to defund agencies that they didn't like, and the Supreme Court ruled that that was illegal. That while the Treasury fell under the executive branch, the president could not have it was administrated, I should say, by the executive branch. The president could not cancel or redirect funds that had been allocated by Congress. The reason is this would essentially give the president an unofficial veto power over any laws that Congress establishes, even if the laws were by a veto-proof majority. If the president wants to veto it, he can, and if Congress wants to override, they can do that. But the president cannot change U.S. law simply by defunding it out of existence. That has been decided and ruled upon repeatedly. So this is absolutely illegal. And by the way, Trump has actually not done any of it. It's been done by a private citizen, the world's wealthiest man, Elon Musk, who has walked into these buildings without credentials and kicked out anyone who has refused to hand over classified information. If that strikes you as odd, it shouldn't. The president who's doing it is not only a felon, but he is pardoned. Or at least commuted the sentences then of the violent offenders from January 6th who were trying to overthrow the government, broke into Congress, and erected a gallows calling "Hang Mike Pence," so that Trump could continue to stay in office despite the fact that he had been voted out. All right. What you saw there, so what does USAID do? There's been video which appears to me to be fake of a congresswoman claiming that it does all of these DEI things and has spent millions of dollars on DEI projects in other countries. Holy shit. Excuse the language, sorry. I'm trying to get better about it. I picked the wrong week to quit swearing on YouTube. I don't know what specific projects she may or may not have found, and I suspect the videos are fake for a number of reasons. If it were legit, I'd be happy to air her side of the story. So we're working on that. But having said that, I do know that the money goes towards helping remove I've forgotten the name of the worm that burrows out from the inside of the eyes of children, but you get it from the water. It's, oh dear, I've forgotten it. And it can be fought reasonably easily. You just have to filter the water. One problem is getting them to filter the water is very difficult. These are tribes, often in Africa, where they believe the water is sacred, and to filter it, run it through any kind of filtration device, even if it's just, you can use, The potato cloth you can use, or actually very fine cloth will work, but to do that is sacrilegious to them. So you end up having to spend a great deal of time fighting the culture to get them to practice the most basic sanitation that would help them save the lives of their children. This is what USAID does. Are they the most efficient agency in the U.S.? I highly doubt it. Are they the worst in efficiency? I highly doubt that as well. But I think we should look at it, not dismantle the entire thing, just wholesale. If you can demonstrate to me that it is in fact the single most ineffective, worst government agency ever to exist, yes, dismantle the thing wholesale and I won't object. We don't even have to look at it. If you can just sit there and God comes down and says, this really is the worst agency ever in the history of the United States, then dismantle it. Anything short of that, since you're dealing with other people's lives, don't have Elon Musk, who hasn't sworn an oath to the Constitution, has no fucking authority. I didn't vote for him. I didn't not vote for him because he wasn't on the fucking ballot. And he hasn't been actually appointed and vetted by Congress. He's gone through no legal processes. They can't just shut these things down. I was going to take a cheap shot. Then I realized it's not cheap. I get that Elon Musk may not care about worms that burrow out through the inside of children's eyeballs. I get that he may not give a shit about that. In fact, his tweet in regards to that agency was, "We spent the weekend feeding USAID into the wood chipper. Could have gone to some great parties, did that instead." I've seen people saying, does anyone even really know what the government does anyway? Why can't we just dismantle it? Well, how about this? Before you dismantle it, why don't you figure out what it does, just in case it's important to some living human being on this planet? That's not to say that there aren't people suffering in the U.S. That's not to say that there aren't more people suffering than I'm aware of in the United States. Fine. Then let's deal with those problems instead of creating other problems for other people, including two states that are very good friends of ours that we've just created a shit ton of problems and scared the living shit out of with these tariffs, which I never thought he planned on implementing. Most people never thought he planned on implementing. And when they got implemented, all of us sighed a collective, holy shit, he really did it. Yeah, except the day after he rolled it back. So he did what he always does, just pulls out a really big stick and takes a good look at his best friend and says, give me your lunch money. That's America today. Minus USAID. Meanwhile, trying to find here, Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii said that he would put a blanket hold on all of President Trump's State Department nominees until the administration ends its attack on USAID. He is calling on all Democrats to bring all Senate business to a grinding halt until Trump stops dismantling the government, stops just wholesale dismantling the government. That came only a few hours ago, so let's see, that came in about 6 hours ago. We don't have a response yet, but there was on Blue Sky, somebody said, wow, hardly see one of those in the wild, a Democrat with a backbone. It's nice to see someone thinking that this needs to be dealt with. We had reports that at least the profiles of a number of African American scientists were being taken down from the American Society of Microbiology. They weren't being taken down. We had a picture of them covered up. We've been unable to access this, so I'd like to say that this story is actually, as of yet, unconfirmed. It looked like it was going on, and they had been some of their papers had been sent back for review, ostensibly on the grounds that maybe they're a DEI hire, so they're maybe they're not qualified. By the way, there's an old fallacy called affirming the consequent. If you say, if one thing is true, then the other thing is true, then people say, well, if that other thing is true, then it must mean the first thing. No, it doesn't. Let's assume for the sake of argument that DEI is responsible for a disordinately amount of hires of minorities in some way that's egregious and has to be dealt with. It doesn't mean that every minority that's working got there through DEI. They could have gotten there through anything else. They may have even just not checked off the box when it comes to race. You have no idea. Not everybody is a DEI hire, regardless of the color of their skin. So I don't know. It's amazing that DEI has been weaponized to the extent where you can just say, well, basically all USAID was doing was giving DEI to other countries. No. No. Sorry, boo. You need to look into that one a little more. All right. Has that brought us all the way? And apologies for the curtness, but I get a little testy when someone I didn't even have the option to not vote for starts dismantling my country and then making jokes about it. These shows are often quick, fast, in and out, and we're trying to do that here, so I apologize for the length, but there's a lot to cover. We don't often get super chats during them, so I really do appreciate the effort. Darren, who, by the way, when I'm going quickly, I often say Darian, and it's only because Blonde Bombsheller whacks me with a stick every time I do that, so you need to thank her, and my apologies. Darren Vaughn, 199. Oh no, it's Nick Q. Microsoft theme. 199. Tariffs are so stupid, particularly to our friends. Yeah, well, yeah, they hurt everybody. They are, no, they don't. Apologies. I got distracted there for a minute. We've said this before. Tariffs are not universally a bad idea. They're like everything. I mean, a scalpel in the wrong hands is a lethal weapon. In the right hands, used at the right time, it can save a human life. It's a blade. It's a knife. It cuts things. It's got good uses and bad uses. Tariffs are the same thing. Government agencies are the same thing. Democrats have fucked up in a number of ways. I don't approve of how Obama tried to get Obamacare through. I think Obamacare, some kind of Medicare for all, is an absolute necessity for any civilized country. He did it the wrong way. Republicans got pissed. We've been looking down at Republicans saying, well, you're too stupid to understand why this is important, so let's explain it to you. That's not really a great argument, even if you're right. So, Dems have a lot of stuff to you know, we have had our ivory tower looking down on people, and we shouldn't have done that. We're going to continue to do it because we're human beings. There are things Republicans shouldn't be doing, but they're human beings too, so they're going to. We have to deal with the problems we have right now, and right now, government is being dismantled. 200 years of government is being dismantled. And it's being dismantled by a guy who has already shown a deliberate intent to overthrow the United States government. He tried once. It wasn't an accident. I love it. Oh, it was. You can say one of two things of Trump. You can either say he's a blathering idiot, in which case, then, yeah, okay, maybe he didn't really realize that he was inciting to insurrection. Or you can say, no, he's a smart guy who can turn this country around. But if he's a smart guy, then he knew exactly what he was doing on January 6th. And I mean exactly. You can't have it both ways. When you want to talk about him being a treasonous insurrectionist, oh, well, he had no way of knowing. When you want to talk about him saving this country, yeah, he knew they'd back down, and he got so much out of Canada and Mexico. He didn't get a tenth of what you think, and if he's really that smart, then he tried to overthrow the country, bub. You can't have both. Darren Vaughn, 499. We forced Canada and Mexico to renegotiate last time. No point in dealing with Trump. Worst Canada, Mexico, and Rico. Yeah, oh, and blonde bombshell, her ears were burning. All right. So I honestly, I suspect there's like 16 more things I covered. Oh, yes, OSHA has also now, has it been eliminated or, let me check because they are eliminating agencies. OSHA is the department that oversees, that ensures that workplace laws are followed, especially in the federal government. By the way, the federal government is immune to most of laws passed by Congress. The federal workforce, congressional laws regarding hours, regarding public safety, so on and so forth, don't actually apply to federal employees. There is a reason, I have forgotten why. At any rate, yeah, I don't have it with me. I apologize. Like I said, there's been a great deal going on at a very fast clip. Let me just see if I can find it real quick for you. Oh, Jesus, I did forget one. It gets worse. At roughly 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a U.S. prosecutor sent Elon Musk a letter. U.S. prosecutor sent Elon Musk a letter. In the letter, the prosecutor said that he wanted any information on anyone who was possibly impeding his work and anyone who was blocking his access to buildings, so that they could face possible criminal sanctions. A federal prosecutor sent that to Elon Musk. Let us know who gets in your way while you break the law so that we can arrest them. I'm not kidding. That's what it says. Musk staff is still being blocked from accessing some sensitive information. We know that they've also gotten access to a large number of it, including all of the HR records of the 2 million federal employees. That includes Social Security numbers, payment records, yada, yada, yada. He also ostensibly has most, if not all, or complete access to Treasury. That includes all payments and where they get sent out. And we have literally, I've been talking so much that while I've been talking, we got one more piece of information here. 2 federal employee unions are filing suit to seek to block DOJ access to the Treasury Department's Treasury database. So we have not confirmed that, but that came to us from Judgezilla, who is impeccable with having good sources. But we will put more on that on the Discord, so it does look like two federal unions. They're not federal unions. Whew. When you work quickly like this, you got to make sure you get it right. They're not 2 federal unions. They are 2 employee unions for federal employees. 2 federal employee unions, AFGE and SEIU, have filed suit seeking to block DOJ access to the Treasury Department. I will tell you this, it's about time somebody blocked it. I see a conservative judge taking issue with standing. Okay, what standing does an employee have to sue if they're not allowed into the building? As long as they're not being punished for not coming to work. I mean, if your boss locks you out of work and then fires you for not coming into work, that's actionable. But if a boss says, don't come into work today, and, if your boss says, don't come into work today, as long as your paycheck isn't docked, you really don't have much say in the matter. Now, admittedly, their boss hasn't said that. Musk has said that, and Musk is not. This is what people need to understand. Trump cannot, by fiat, hand powers to people and say, go do this, especially without oversight. Oversight I mean, checks and balances is everything. Everybody that Trump appoints ends up having to go through Congress. There's a reason for that. So Musk has one qualification that is state issued, and that's a driver's license to the best of my ability. Oh, and he's got a passport. Okay, that doesn't get you into a federal building, and that doesn't let you fire federal employees, and that doesn't let you tell anybody in the federal government that they can't do their job. And a wink and a nod, or even an explicit direction from Donald Trump, does not overcome that. At a minimum, you'd think Donald Trump would have said, hey, this is my buddy Elon, let him do whatever he wants, and stick it on a Post-it note and give it to the guy. That would have more credibility than Elon Musk has at the current moment, and yet he has literally seized a minimum now of 4 buildings in the U.S. government without any authority whatsoever. Even a tweet from Donald Trump saying he's got the authority would be more authority than he's got. It's just that he's close to Trump, obviously, and he says he can do it, so he's doing it. And Congress doesn't seem to care. The Republicans in Congress don't care. How would they feel if Democrats were doing that? So, as of this moment, Doge, Doge, by the way, and people mistake this. It's called an agency. It is not an agency because only Congress can, and we just discussed this, only Congress can make and remove agencies. Congress did not make this. It was made by Elon Musk, and it was authorized by Trump. But the only authorization he can give is as an advisory role. So he can create advisory agencies to help, but they have no authority whatsoever. Let me say that again. An executive branch agency has no authority whatsoever, period, end of sentence. This has not been in debate for about 200 years. Nonetheless, this, quote, government agency, not an agency, has been given access to the small business administrations, including HR, contract, and payment systems, which means if you own a small business that is registered with the federal government, all of your information is now in the hands of Doge. By the way, most of that is private information, and I didn't authorize, I actually own a small business. You're watching it. I didn't authorize Elon Musk to look at my social security number. He's not a federal employee. Again, I wasn't given the option to not vote for him. So, we will see where this goes. Nonetheless, thank you very much for the super chats. I'm going to go in and check back in on the live stream. As I said, we've been getting stuff in all day. If we went to breaking every time we got something. The reason we went to breaking now was because of Canada and Mexico ostensibly capitulating to the United States with regards to tariffs and a 30-day waiting period added. We discussed that early on, and then we added to it we were going to do a rundown at 10 p.m. The reason it was going to be 10 p.m., I don't want to stay up till 10 p.m., but the reason it's got to be 10 p.m. is because things don't start to quiet down until 7 p.m. on the East Coast. So, we were just going to cover all of this then in one blanket. Here are the catastrophes for today. But since we had to go live with the tariffs, we decided to hit you guys with everything else. There is a downtime with 𝐒𝐨𝐻𝐸 and I, and let me explain that downtime for just 1 minute. Somebody pointed out to me, a good friend pointed out to me, that as hard as I'm taking this, there are people I know who are taking it worse. And in some ways, 𝐒𝐶andering is one of them. 𝐒𝐶andering is, and the screen really should be down. It always comes up. If he's not here, the screen should be up. If he's here, you shouldn't be able to see it. Anyways, those of you who know him know he's a conservative. By conservative, he really believes in conservative values. And he can be, he's said many times he doesn't believe in there being a social safety net at the federal level, but he absolutely believes that we'll always need a social safety net. There'll always be people who a small percentage who, for whatever reason, aren't going to be keeping up with everybody else, and there has to be a safety net. He just thinks it should be done by the states. Okay. He never thought Trump could ever do anything like this. Most of the people listening here saw something like this coming. He laughed his ass off. And he's had friends who have been conservatives and who've said, we will defend the Constitution at all costs, and these friends are clapping for Donald Trump as he ignores the Constitution and dismantles everything. And those of you who are listening, he had said, look, I'm for dismantling a number of these agencies. But first, you let the states, you tell the states you're going to do it. You let the states build up their thing. Heck, you send them back some of their own money so that they can pay to do it on their side, and then you dismantle. Or find a way to do it that doesn't, you suddenly remove these things. It's chaos. So, and listening to me here now, I'm a little triggered. So, and so is most of the people on In Time. We're going to have a conversation tonight, a downtime conversation, where we're going to talk about how this has affected us psychologically. And we're going to start with him because it's actually affected him a bit more than most of us, because he didn't see this coming, and it's his, quote, side. He doesn't consider himself a Republican. He stopped considering himself a Republican a while ago. He's still a conservative, but it's ostensibly his side. How would you feel if Biden was doing this? If your, quote, side was doing this? It's not all about his andering, but we're going to talk to him. We're each going to talk about, and we're going to listen to the audience. We're going to see what you guys have to say about it. And we're all going to try to process a bit. I'm a verbal processor. I don't know what I'm thinking until I've heard what I've said. So we're all going to sit and we're going to talk about it. That's tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, downtime on this channel. Hope you guys will join us for that. Thank you very much, Darren Vaughn, for the super chats, and we look forward to seeing you all later tonight for downtime. And tomorrow there's going to be some news updates, I guarantee it. Like, subscribe, make sure you get the notifications, because hit the bell, make sure you subscribe to all, because I have a feeling there's going to be more. Have a good night all.